What is going on, you guys? It is another episode of the Sci-Fly Zone where the multiverse meets a seventh inning stretch. It's your boys Trent and CJ, and today's destination is the Marvel Universe. We'll be discussing and breaking down episode 8 of season 2 of X-Men 97. And if you enjoy the video, please hit the like button as it greatly helps the channel. But let's get into episode 8, titled The Dead Man's Hand, as it picks up with the revelation that not only is Gambit now alive once again, but that Apocalypse's spirit has completely ditched his body and is now puppeting Gambit's body with access to his memories and his now amplified powers as well, leaving X-Force and soon the X-Men to battle with the sudden turn of events and figure out just how much of Apocalypse lies within Gambit and how much of Gambit is left to save. And I am happy that they brought most of the team together in this episode, and it is sick to see Gambit back in this way, in my opinion. But before we get into the details, I gotta say that these 8 to 10 episode length seasons leave some storylines really underdeveloped and rushed, in my opinion. Like, there's not really much room for setup going on this season, and whenever big stuff happens, sometimes we just have to move on and we don't really get to dive into how some of the characters feel and the real implications of stuff. Like, there's just a lot going on and not a lot of time to really dive into it.
I think that's a fair criticism for sure. I've really enjoyed a lot of this season, but at times, kind of like the second half of this season feels like a different season than the first half. It feels like the first 4 episodes really spent a lot of time building up Apocalypse and Sabanur and his backstory. And then we got like 3 or 4 episodes that were kind of aside from the plot and very like character specific, which we have gotten a lot of very great character stuff from certain X-Men, but it hasn't really gotten us closer to the plot. It was kind of just a detour for a couple episodes, it feels like. So yeah, I think they could totally add more episodes to each season or just make the episodes longer. They don't have to be 28 minutes long. You could spend some more time delving out the plot and some characters, but still think there's been a lot to enjoy about this season.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even on those standalone episodes, their actions are influenced by what has happened in those first 4 episodes too. So at least there is that.
Yeah, it's not like they're completely separate from the Apocalypse storyline. It's just weird that there hasn't really been much Apocalypse except for like the last scene of a couple episodes, you know?
Yeah. So this episode opens with a dream sequence of Rogue together with Gambit instead of Magneto and Genosha on the night of the Mega Sentinel attack, before this turns quickly into a nightmare, acting as a cosmic warning of what's to come in the near future and kind of emotional torture in a way as well, as Rogue definitely is wishing things played out differently while facing the inevitable reality that stems from Apocalypse's actions. But isn't it weird how she knew exactly what Gambit would look like before she saw him?
Yeah, that was a kind of an interesting detail. Yeah, it was a very accurate depiction of Gambit. Although, from what we've learned in Marvel and the MCU when it comes to dream sequences, when you're dreaming, there is a world out there that does exist like that. So maybe she was like making a connection there in some way, some cosmic like prediction of how it was going to turn out, but she was very accurate with it. Yeah, and he is intimidating for sure. He looks super cool, but Gambit in the form of death with that gray skin and the gray hair is super intimidating. And every time we go back to Genosha, it's just so heartbreaking because it reminds you of what life was like for them before that event happened and what things could have been like afterwards, like you mentioned, if things hadn't gone that way. It just feels like what happened on Genosha is like a canon event for a lot of mutants.
Yeah, and you're literally on point with that because Cable tries to go back and save Madeline Pryor multiple times, but time keeps pulling him away.
Yeah, there's nothing he could have done to stop it, no matter how many times he tried.
Yep, because time will literally not let you stop some things from happening. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we see how that affects a little bit later on in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. So we cut to the X-Men playing poker with each other at the top of the X-Corp building, and I wish we got to see more stuff like this. You know, maybe that's the point of the X-Men. They never get a break to enjoy themselves for more than a few hours at a time before something calls to their attention. Maybe that's the point. But either way, I just want to see more fun stuff like this, just hanging out like, I got I got Trips, Nightcrawler. Come on. Like, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool if we could see some more like recreational downtime from the X-Men. I mean, they live in such a nice place that they barely have any time to actually enjoy their luxuries because of how difficult and hectic their lives are. I believe it was last season where we got some X-Men like inter-squad pickup basketball games when they weren't like doing anything important. I like that stuff too. It just feels like team building and like bonding, you know? Like when you have like a team like that, it's good to have those moments, and we don't really get to see it a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. And these X-Men poker chips are super sick. I want them to make these in real life because I would buy them. And plus, obviously, Beast is a beast at poker. It makes sense. He's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, he's of course he's going to be super good. Pretty noble of the X-Men to play poker with psychics and telekinetics because, it would be very easy for them to cheat and very difficult to tell if they're cheating or not.
Yeah, but then you just get punched in the face.
Yeah, they have other means to take care of cheaters.
And as Beast wins the pot against Nightcrawler, X-Force just pull up unannounced at X-Corp, creating panic among the X-Men until Jean literally has to use her powers to sense Cable just seconds before Beast opens fire on them. Like, is communicating that you're pulling up really that hard? I mean, X-Factor pulls up on X-Force at the end of the episode in the exact same way, even though they're there with good intentions of teaming up. Like, why do we have to be so aggressive? Like, you'd think a telepath would have a bit of better grip on communication.
Yeah, it feels like there's definitely some things they could work on here. They're great in a fight, they're great in battle, their teamwork is good, but the communication is not always there. And especially in times like this, with everything that's going on with Apocalypse and Gambit, it's probably a good idea for Cable to give them a heads up that it's going to be them coming in there, because that feels like some important information to know.
Yeah, 100%. So as X-Force lands, they have Apocalypse's corpse just on display. But that's not even the bad news, as Jubilee hands Rogue the Queen of Hearts, declaring Gambit's official revival. And X-Force plans to use Rogue to save Gambit the same way that she did Archangel. And I kind of feel bad for Rogue because that's got to be a lot of pressure to not only have to save Gambit, but also try and not kill him and not let anyone else get hurt in the process, while still having to keep your eye out for Apocalypse inside of Gambit or wherever he may come from.
Yeah, this is a extremely tall task for Rogue to take up. So much responsibility is being put on her shoulders at once after finding out that Gambit is actually still alive, and then to find out that you're essentially the key to possibly bringing him back. It's just such an immense task that they're putting her up for, but they don't really see any other options, so she's gonna take up whatever she can do.
Yeah, so to locate Gambit, Beast has upgraded the Cerebra room, now called Cerebra, and Professor X, he locates Gambit at Mardi Gras in New Orleans. But Gambit, since he's imbued with Apocalypse's power now, he can sense and actually interact with Professor X's Cerebra mind projection, killing the projection and the connection. This kind of felt like Kylo Ren and Rey doing their Force time chats that they did in the new trilogy.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, it really does feel like that for sure. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that Gambit wanted to go back home, go back to Mardi Gras where he's comfortable. But then as soon as he sees Charles there, he kicks him out of his mind real quick.
Yeah, and when the helmet rolled off, it kind of felt like when Jango Fett's helmet rolled off.
Yeah, when Mace Windu cut his head off, yeah, there was a part of me that was worried that had happened as well for a second, that they just also lost Charles just like that. That would have been a very big issue.
Dude, if they would have done that, though, I would have respected the show so much.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see how the X-Men react to that.
Yeah, and it would be cool to see people like Storm, Forge, Bishop, and even Jubilee kind of take on more leadership roles at the mansion if the mansion does not get blown up in the meantime.
Yes, again, if they can keep it safe this time. But yeah, they have people who can step up and lead, like Storm, like Beast, like Forge. Obviously, they're not going to be like Charles Xavier level, because he's one of, if not the most well-known and respected mutants there are. But they'd be able to fend for themselves. And there's a reason that Storm was labeled the headmistress now from earlier on in this season. She absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, 100%. So we locate Horseman Gambit, and he has sent all of his friends in the Thieves Guild an invitation. He wants them back to join him, as not only does he explain to them how Apocalypse has brought him back from the dead, but he uses witchcraft imbued tarot cards to mind control his friends as well. Essentially, Apocalypse is using a horseman to make more horsemen. And I also think it's interesting how Apocalypse is essentially cosplaying as just an evil Gambit throughout this episode until the very end, where his soul and Gambit's soul briefly separated. But it really made me wonder if at one point this was just an evil Gambit that actually did murder Apocalypse at the end of the last episode and just had lost what made him Gambit during the resurrection process, or if this actually was just Apocalypse puppeting Gambit and having access to everything in Gambit's mind and power set to manipulate everyone. But either way, it's just very impressive how much it felt like it was really Gambit.
Yeah, it was. There were definitely times where I was questioning what was the actual reality of what's going on here. And I think I kind of liked that it was kind of left up for interpretation. How the last episode ended, you weren't for sure whether or not it was a soul transference. Obviously, we saw Apocalypse trying to do something that looked like a soul transference, but then you just see his rotting skeleton there, and you see the playing card, and you're like, oh, did Gambit just actually kill Apocalypse? And is he going to be the real villain of this season? But yeah, I really like the nuance that they added to that aspect of his character. And it was cool seeing the Assassin's Guild and the Thieves Guild coming back. You know, they were in the original series and they were at Gambit's funeral last season. Not quite the family reunion that they were expecting. You know, as you mentioned, Gambit turning them into horseman of the apocalypse, which is just a terrifying idea. But yeah, really, really not looking good for the X-Men right now.
No, definitely not. And the way Jean describes them after she senses them, I mean, it's just horrific.
Yeah, he basically turned them into a shell of their former selves.
Yeah, 100%. So Jean and Scott, they walk into Cable's room and they ask him how he feels about Apocalypse just seemingly already being dead and he didn't get to kill him. But he gets one answer out before they immediately just switch to asking him why he didn't do another thing that would have certainly either destroyed the timeline or caused time to displace them, as we saw what happened in the attack of Genosha. Like, Jean and Scott are just so oblivious to timeline implications despite them literally having time traveled before. Like, nothing beats family, I guess.
Yeah, it really feels like they forgot some of the lessons that they were taught at the start of this season. The whole reason that they went back in time to meet younger Nathan and learn about all of this effects of time travel and how much control do you really have over it. I thought this was a really great scene between these characters and the character development, because you have the trauma that Cable's experiencing, where basically everything has been ripped away from him through time. He's just jaded because of everything that he's gone through. And Scott and Jean like approaching him and being like, I don't want to think about what's happened in the past or what could happen in the future. Let's try to be present right now, where we're at in this current time, be a family, because they don't have really any time for that. Barely. They had like a couple scenes to be a family in the first couple episodes, and then they got ripped apart from each other. But I liked seeing the comforting between them. You know, as the criticism that I do have for this season, I think we've gotten some really great character stuff from a lot of characters.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Although it kind of sucks that Jean and Scott being on the X-Men doesn't rub off a bit more on Cable. Like, Cable is very much his own guy with his own way of going about things because of how he's been brought up. You know, it's just what he's been through.
Yeah, obviously he's the son of Scott and Jean, but he wasn't raised by them, you know? He kind of had to figure things out on his own.
Yeah, 100%. But as the X-Men and X-Force are pulling up on Horseman Gambit, come to find out, Horseman Gambit and crew are already pulling up on them using witchcraft-imbued flying motorcycles on some Ghost Rider shit. It's pretty sick. And they get inside the ship, and Rogue was pretty surprised to see the members of the Assassin and Thieves Guild in this fashion. But when Scott said,
skip the shock and awe, find Gambit, now!
that killed me, bro. That was so funny.
Yeah, that was great. Rogue, we don't have time for a dialogue. This is an action sequence. You have to jump at action. You can't. Yeah, that was good.
So as the plane is going down, Rogue and Gambit, they find each other in the cargo bay, and this genuinely seems like Gambit when they're talking, as he's recalling the moment that he died and how all he saw was her when he was going out. But when Rogue touches Gambit, nothing happens, which is really weird. It's like something is blocking her powers from accessing anything within Gambit. And during her confusion, she gets put to sleep so his plans can work out effortlessly, which prompts Nightcrawler to try and save Rogue, but he gets put down immediately and now taken with them, along with Rogue, back to their secret hideout. But remember, there's still a plane going down. So Cable, he's got to level up once again and help out Psylocke and Jean slow the ship down and angle it to crash safely. So Rogue and Nightcrawler are gone, Gambit's certifiably different, and the X-Men and X-Force are stuck in the middle of Louisiana, causing the rest of the X-Men at the mansion to go and find them and help them, leaving Colossus in charge. Just very eventful and impactful sequence right here.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in this scene for sure. I mean, first of all, we get that interaction between Rogue and Gambit again, and we get the moment that Rogue has wanted for this entire show, seemingly. All she's wanted is the physical connection with Gambit and to be able to touch him. And she reaches out and touches his face, and she's able to get what she wants. She touches him, but it's heartbreaking because the only reason that she's able to do this without hurting him is because it's not really him, and he's not there. He is not at all the person that she knows and wanted, which was just so heartbreaking for her. And then to immediately follow that up with this awesome sequence of all of the telepaths like working together, adding their powers together. You get these awesome like colors clashing against each other, and the ship crashing, landing, everyone being okay. Just a really, really awesome sequence. And then, of course, the news immediately jumps to, was this a terrorist attack or was it just a plane crash? You know, little kind of interesting there, but they're mutants, so they're going to obviously have the prejudice against them.
Yeah, and of course, Wolverine's pissed because he couldn't help save Jean.
Yep. Man, if Wolverine was there, everything would have been different.
Oh, Wolverine and Jean. The never-ending rodeo.
And it never will, unfortunately, for him.
Nope. So, Rogue wakes up to Horseman Gambit preparing her dinner and wine while he tries to win her over and have her be with him completely, which then gives us a flashback to almost 5,000 years ago, as Apocalypse had actually fallen in love with Kandra, the woman that Rama-Tut, also known as Kang the Conqueror, had ditched for a new timeline when he saw Apocalypse pulling up in ship during the events of Episode 4's finale. She had actually convinced Apocalypse to fall in love with her and give her a part of his power imbued inside of a relic, only for her to steal the relic for herself as revenge for the destruction that he had caused against her people. Then she ran away with the relic all the way to the bayou, becoming essentially a god figurehead in the area, brokering peace between local crime guilds for hundreds of years to come, including the one that Gambit came from. So, Horseman Gambit, he wants to steal this relic for himself and bind him and Rogue together for eternity as the most powerful couple in the multiverse.
Yeah, this was getting a lot of motivation from Apocalypse and Gambit here. This was a ton of information to take in. It made me think of that conversation between Rogue and N7 at the campfire, where Rogue says, like, I hope you find someone that you can love someday for all of our sakes. And with what we've talked about over the first couple episodes of the show, it made me wonder, like, did that conversation lead to Apocalypse having that interaction with Kandra, then leading to this that the X-Men have to take care of, or was it always inevitable? Was there nothing they could do about it anyways? But yeah, just super, super interesting stuff here. It almost feels like Apocalypse is trying to live this life that he wanted to live with Kandra vicariously through Gambit and Rogue. And if he can like take over Gambit's body and then put Kandra's heart into Rogue, then he can basically have that relationship that he always wanted. But I mean, you know, we've seen some men do some pretty outlandish stuff for love in Marvel and the MCU in general. The whole reason why Thanos wiped out half the planet in the comics is because he wanted to sleep with death. Like, that was his main goal in that. So we've seen some people do some crazy things for love. This was some very, very important context for these characters.
Yeah, you make some great points. And also, Doctor Strange killed his entire universe trying to save Christine from death. But her death was an absolute point in time, which is something that cannot be reversed, just like the attack on Genosha and some of the people who died on there. So time travel does not change things. So he thought he could go against time and got the whole universe killed for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of time, there's really nothing you can do. You know, you try to mess with time, it's going to mess back. Everybody knows that at this point.
And also there was what seems like foreshadowing earlier on this season in episode 4, Rise of Apocalypse Part 2, when Apocalypse is really turning into his full self that we know. Rama-Tut starts to leave, and he tells Kandra that her destiny starts today, because the only thing that will be able to challenge a force like Apocalypse is going to be something external. And Kandra is actually an external in this universe as well. So that was a piece of foreshadowing that I didn't really pick up on at the moment, but seemed pretty clear that she was eventually going to come back and have a bigger role in this story. So I thought that was a pretty cool connection between those two.
Yeah, really, really interesting writing. And then when they said it, I was like, oh, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's that thing. Yeah. I think that kind of leaves the door open for Kang returning too, or some form of Kang. I feel like maybe at some point down the line, we'll get something like that.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too.
So, as the wedding begins between Rogue and Horseman Gambit, the Thieves Guild call upon the external so Gambit can ask her for the relic very nicely. Just kidding. He instantly stabs and disintegrates her, being like, sorry, I literally don't have time to ask you. I gotta do this. Stealing the relic for himself. And as he's about to bind himself with Rogue for eternity, all of the X-Men and X-Force pull up, guns ready, saying, hey, we don't want to fight you, Gambit. Well, pulling up super aggressively kind of gives off the opposite impression, and then a fight breaks out. Good thinking, Scott.
Yeah, yeah. Scott's saying we don't want to fight you, while Wolverine's got knives coming out of his hands and he's in ready position about to jump Gambit. They're giving off some mixed signals here, I feel like.
Yeah, just a bit, just a bit. So as the fight starts, Nightcrawler just shows everybody that the only thing preventing him from dropping you 100 feet in the air to the ground is his relationship with God. Because even without taking things to that extent, Nightcrawler, under the influence of Horseman Gambit, he solos the X-Men, showcasing just how OP this guy could really be. Even handling Morph when he turns into a Shi'ar Imperial Guard member known as Earthquake. Like, I love Nightcrawler. He's sick.
Yeah, we have gotten some incredible fight scenes from Nightcrawler in these last 2 episodes. He has been an MVP when it comes to action sequences in the show, just showing up every member of the X-Men, just taking them up into the sky and dropping them into the river just because he feels like it. Like, yeah, he is really showing that he does not get talked about enough. I know that Nightcrawler is a lot of people's favorite X-Men, but I don't think people talk about his capabilities as much as they should, because, yeah, this was incredibly impressive.
Yeah, 100%. He almost gave everybody the Azazel treatment.
Exactly, yeah. Which is saying a lot, because this is like the first time that we have basically the full team of X-Men this season. Like, we've been talking about that a little bit. It feels like they've had separate groups and separate teams kind of doing their side quests, but
Yeah.
now we have Forge, we have Storm back in actions for the first time since like episode 1. It was great. It was cool seeing all of them together, but clearly not enough of them.
No. And during all the chaos, we realize that Charles, he's just sitting and watching everything from inside of the jet and does nothing to prevent Gambit from giving Rogue the relic, and only acts after the fact. But after he does act, he puts Gambit and himself inside of a mental battleground, knocking out Gambit in real life. And during the fight inside of the mental battleground, Charles actually puts on some metal armor, perhaps in light of Magneto. That's why he did that. That's my guess. But they're punching each other when that's not the whole point of this. So after the punching doesn't work, Charles does the mind stuff, which, why didn't we start with? Anyway, Charles does the mind stuff, and Charles, he finds Gambit's soul inside of Horseman Gambit and starts trying to pull the real Gambit out. But as the process starts, because Gambit's passed out in real life, X-Force, they turn on the X-Men and they plan to kill Gambit, as that was their plan the whole time, actually, because they want to end Apocalypse and they think killing Gambit will make that certain. I'm honestly not surprised by X-Force or Cable at all.
No, I'm not surprised either. You know, it was a little obvious that there was some clashing between their methods at the start of this episode. Him not going to completely agree with Charles on what they should do or how they should go about it, but Charles is used to that at this point. You know, he's dealt with Magneto for decades. So yeah, this was pretty scummy for Cable and X-Force. I mean, even Jubilee and Sunspot, who were technically part of the team, weren't aware that that was the plan. They were also surprised that they kind of turned their backs on the rest of the X-Men and tried to kill Gambit in front of them. But I can kind of see where Cable's coming from, because it is his destiny to kill Apocalypse, and this is the form that Apocalypse is in right now, so he's seeing red right now, but that's not going to help out anybody else.
Yeah, and Jean definitely having a mom moment, like, don't make me go in your head right now, Cable.
Yeah, Nathan, no, stop. Yeah, I love the motherly figure that she can be.
Don't make me put you in timeout.
Don't make me put your mind in timeout.
But as Gambit's soul is pulled out, the real Apocalypse emerges and just immediately taunts Charles about Magneto's death. Like, this guy's a menace.
Yeah, I mean, wasting no time. The very next time he sees Charles, he goes, hey, remember what I did to your boy? Remember how I killed your husband? Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Yep. But as Apocalypse is about to fully consume Gambit's spirit and push Professor X completely out, Rogue uses her power from the relic to be a light in the dark for Gambit and bring him back into the light, seemingly reviving him for real this time and denying Cable the ability to kill him, and they all leave him in the bayou as well. Just, bye Cable, you're F you for your plan, you suck. But this does not mean Apocalypse is gone. Apocalypse is still living inside of Gambit's body in some capacity, and they are currently duking it out for soul possession, as it seems, and they gotta do something before Apocalypse completely kills Gambit once again. But in order to do that, they have to somehow remove him and then still kill him after the removal, and I have no idea how this will be accomplished.
I also have no idea how they're going to do this. It's so hard to make predictions going into the final episode, because again, I just have no idea where this is going to go. Also, I forgot while watching this, but seemingly Apocalypse's body is still at the X-Corp building, which is not too far from where Gambit is right now. So I don't know what they're going to be doing with Apocalypse's soul. I don't know if they need to put Apocalypse's soul back into Apocalypse's body and then kill Apocalypse. It's so hard to think about what could possibly happen. I also don't know if there's still another Apocalypse out there. We haven't really seen him for a while. So yeah, it is really, really hard to tell what's going on into this final episode.
Yeah, because Future Apocalypse said, let's take it back to the 90s where they're at their most vulnerable. But then we see past Apocalypse as well. And that Apocalypse was the one that killed Magneto. And then we see this episode that Apocalypse referenced killing Magneto. So clearly this has to be at least past Apocalypse. So either they forgot about the other Apocalypse, or maybe Apocalypse has a hive mind now, or I just suck at interpreting things. I don't know. But there's multiple apocalypses on multiple timelines that have done stuff, and we're only focusing on one seemingly.
Yeah, I feel like with a lot of things, some of the Apocalypse stuff has kind of been left up for either interpretation or as a mystery, possibly on purpose for like a reveal at some point. But yeah, it's just so hard to assume where this is going. Plus you also have, like you mentioned earlier, everything with X-Factor and X-Force coming together now, them seemingly working together, and you got to set up Onslaught for the future. It's just they got a lot to do with this last episode, and it's not like it's going to be an hour long, you know? So they have very limited time to tie up the knot.
Yeah, and you know, season 1, they did a fantastic job with the finale and setting it up for season 2. So I have pretty good faith that they'll be able to pull this off. But actually, you know, thinking back in retrospect, the Bastion stuff for me did kind of come out of nowhere, but it still worked out in the end by the finale. And then they still were able to set up this time travel stuff. So I think there's still a really good chance they could make this work.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. Yeah, it's such an ambitious show, and they've been able to pull off so many things so many times. So it's hard not to have confidence in them, even if I don't know what route they're going with. But I think they're going to pull it off fine. Most of season 3 was written by the time they finished working on season 2. So it's not like they have no idea what they're going into next season. So I'm sure they still have a hold of what's going on with this show. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't want to gloss over this episode with theories about next episode and next season. I do want to say it was great seeing Gambit back. I love seeing him as a horseman, and that moment that he had with Rogue where she is the one to be able to pull him back out, seemingly for now, was, I think, a really great moment between the two, and very well deserved.
Yeah, and plus the visual storytelling too was really nice. How she was just like the golden arm in the void, basically. Like that was really cool.
Yeah, she was the one lightness in the dark that was able to pull him out. It was very powerful.
Yeah, 100%. So that's been our breakdown of the semi-finale of season 2 of X-Men 97. And if you guys made it this far in the video, we really, really appreciate it. And we hope to see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching. Peace.